Hi everyone here tonight. As Maria said, my name is Teegan and I'm 37 years old. I have two children, William, who is turning 16 this year. He was 9 when I was incarcerated, and Mila, who is turning 7. She was 5 months old when she came to live with me within the prison when I was sentenced. My first memory of Vacro was when I was 5 years old, travelling into Pentridge Prison to visit my stepfather. I always remember feeling excited and knowing that Vacro were the people that ensured my stepdad would give me a present at the end of the year. There were a lot of Christmases. Fast forward 28 years and I'm getting ready for parole myself. I remember some officers saying to me, "You won't need Vacro. You have a family and a home to be paroled to." However, I was persuaded at one of my last MRCs one day to at least think about it. I thought to myself, at the very least, I could get my Vacro worker to drive me to my first parole appointment. I did link up with them and I was given a worker. However, after meeting her for the first time, she was to go on leave. So one day I get a link up, and who's on the other side of the screen but no other than Sarah Hughes. I remember going 100 miles an hour, feeling anxiety and stress of the unknown and not getting a whole lot of answers from the outside world. Sarah, however, remained calm with a smile on her face, assuring me that she would do her best to find out what was happening amid my release. I walked out that day not having any expectations on Sarah, as I'd only just met her that once. Being in prison, I think you learn not to have expectations because they may never be met. However, much to my surprise, a few hours later, there was a buzz up in my unit with a message from Sarah. She had come through, and that was the start of a very trusting relationship. Once I came home, my parole officer felt that it would be a good idea to study. Wow, I'm thinking to myself, I hadn't studied since year 12, I didn't understand Zoom, and I didn't know how I'd go with a class full of people. So I ring Sarah to express my feelings and ask her if she could help me get a laptop. The very next day, a laptop was delivered. Of course, it didn't stop there because as time went on, I needed to find placement. It wasn't easy to find placement whilst on parole with an ankle bracelet. However, Sarah was able to offer me placement within Vacro to complete my hours, and this just built a stronger foundation between myself and Vacro. Whilst completing my placement, I was lucky to work alongside another Vacro worker, Glenn Cooper, who I'm sure more times than I can count used some motivational interviewing techniques on me and taught me things that I'll always be grateful for. Fast forward 2 years, and I've completed my community services, my mental health and drugs and alcohol, and I'm working at a private drug and alcohol rehab whilst volunteering with Vacro. This is all whilst I'm still on parole. 2 months ago, I got off my parole, and Glenn came down to witness me getting my ankle bracelet off. I'm still learning who the Teegan is that is not the Teegan with a CRN or the Teegan that is on parole. But I feel very lucky that whilst I'm learning, that I have Vacro beside me cheering me on and believing in me. Sarah believed in me from the beginning, and my hope is that one day I can be a Sarah to somebody as she was to me. So I would like to thank Vacro, I'd like to thank Fran, I'd like to thank Marius and Glenn, but most of all, I'd like to thank Sarah. Before I end here, and I'm not even going to look at him because if I look at him I'll cry, I would just like to acknowledge that there is a particular person here tonight that I believe carries the values that Vacro uphold from corrections. I never intended to include him in my speech because my story tonight is how I have bettered my life with Sarah beside me believing me. However, I couldn't stand here tonight without acknowledging him because my story obviously started nearly 6 years ago. And whilst being in prison before you coming up for release and finding out about Vacro, this man is not easy to come by, but yet was so important for my journey, and I know for so many others that are incarcerated. He enabled my daughter's safety and well-being whilst also treating me fairly. He made decisions in regards to me when I was unable, and he always treated me with respect and compassion. There was a time in prison that I felt my whole existence was up to this one man, and yet he was able to guide me to freedom. The very last time we saw each other, I asked him his wise words, considering we would probably never see each other again. And the universe has placed him here tonight, and I don't think I could stand up here without letting him know how internally grateful I will always be for him. And that person is none other than Mr. Money. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to my journey and enabling me to share it all with you guys. Thank you.